for 7 years. Previously attended Sac State, and I'm looking forward to being here today. You can go ahead on the next 2 slides.
Hi, everybody. Anthony Alfaro here, Insurance Service Senior here with Baker Tilly. As previously stated, I'm Los Rios alum, went to Sac City, and then transferred to Sac State. Here at Baker Tilly, on Insurance Services, I primarily focus on our employee benefit plans and also our financial services group, in which I specialize in our venture fund audits.
So Moss Adams by Baker Tilly. You may have seen on the news that Moss Adams and Baker Tilly recently merged on June 3rd to officially become the 6th largest accounting firm, which is very exciting. And so we'll go ahead and provide more details on this next slide. More than a merger, a multiplier. So both firms have really similar culture, similar industry specialization, and are highly respected firms. So we're really excited about this combination. It's not just an acquisition of one firm acquiring another. It's really a merger of the 2 combined firms. And so Heritage Moss Adams had a very large West Coast presence, and Baker Tilly had a similar large East Coast presence. And so with the combination, we're really able to hit a larger demographic of clients with the middle market focus. And so you guys are joining at a time of transition. And so we're going to talk through what that means for you, what will and won't be changing in the near term. And next slide. So why are we doing this? So this merger allows us to enhance and expand our vision of becoming a client-centric advisory firm and create something new for middle market companies. And so with this merger, it'll allow us to invest in our team, in technology, as well as innovation and team development. With the merger, we're going to have greater resources and really greater ability to meet our overall clients' needs. This in turn is going to create more opportunities for you and for current team members, and will continue to expand our hiring needs. Next slide. So growth. Really, this merger creates, again, the 6th largest CPA advisory firm, bringing together, industry specialization, complementary locations. With Heritage Moss Adams, that was a firm that's been in business for 100+ years, with offices in over 30+ locations, again, predominantly on the West Coast, but also spreading into the central region as far as Kansas City. Baker Tilly has earned $3 billion in revenue with over 11,000 team members and is located in 25 states and 9 countries. Baker Tilly International has earned $7 billion in revenue with over 47,000 team members and 700+ offices. So we are located in multiple countries. This would include USA, Canada, India, United Kingdom, Australia, Chile, Singapore, list goes on. Next slide. So part of our evolving structure is our service lines. So we have assurance, risk advisory, tax and tax advisory, managed services, and consulting services. And then this gets it into even more specialized services. So this would include, risk advisory, HR consulting, digital advisory, financial advisory, so on and so forth. And so what's great about working here is you're really able to drive your career and pursue what you're passionate about. Next slide. So with that said, we did want to highlight our 3 main service lines. So that would include assurance, tax, and consulting, each with similarities and differences. So we'll start off with assurance. So in assurance, you're going to have a significant amount of client contact from day one. It is very team-oriented. You will have the opportunity to travel both locally and out of town. And you also have the opportunity to work with different teams internally on a different variety of clients. So in assurance, you're going to have significant visibility into how the company works. And then areas within assurance would include, audit, both financial statement and compliance, SEC reporting and compliance, and then reviews and compilations. Under tax, it is very detail oriented. We do offer tax planning and tax preparation services throughout the year, and the work can be complex and challenging, and it's highly technical. And folks often say, in tax, it can be individual work environment. However, we do have industry groups where we connect with weekly, so you're still able to get that team-oriented aspect as well as one-on-one training. And then lastly, with consulting, it is team-oriented, and you do have the opportunity to connect with clients early on. Consulting can include different opportunity lines, whether you focus on state and local tax, research and credit opportunities for clients, cost segregation studies. There's really a lot of opportunity there. Next slide. And I'll kick it over to Anthony.
So we'll talk a little bit about our industries here. So industry expertise is one of the things that sets our firm apart. We have a great understanding of industry trends and challenges, which permits us to anticipate and respond to opportunities for our clients that might otherwise go untapped. We have 9 different industry groups, and each of those industry groups are headed by an industry group leader. Some of our client service hires may be coming in with industry specialization already. However, especially if you are a staff or senior, you will likely be working across different industry groups. So some of our groups here, we have our construction and hospitality and professional services, down the line to energy and natural resources, financial services, which I'm a part of, industrial and consumer products, technology, communications, and life science, healthcare, real estate, and not-for-profits. So like it said, staff and seniors tend to work in multiple industry groups. And the great thing about this, it allows you to gain knowledge across various industries. And then as you become more seasoned in your career, it helps with selecting a specialization later in your career. Next slide. So as Valerie discussed, we have several locations here in the US. From west to the east. So it's been kind of cool with the merger. Like overnight, we just instantly are now a United States and global presence, which is kind of cool to be a part of. Next slide, please. And so a little bit about our international presence. Like through Baker Tilly International, we bring clients the world's 8th largest global advisory network with market-specific knowledge in more than 140 territories. Next slide. And here we have a career growth path at Baker Tilly, starting from our internships all the way to principal. One of the main focuses here in our career development is to develop industry-specific and transferable skills. That's acquired through, multiple busy seasons, the technical expertise and skills that you gain through working on various clients, the professional growth and development, and also the project management piece. So intern responsibilities, you'll get to know firm technology and processes, staff level work on audits and reviews, preparation of individual and small business tax returns, including as well as financial analysis and reports for consulting. We'll talk a little bit more about internships on the next slide. Oh, next slide, sorry. I missed that. Can we go back one, please? Can we go back one? So Moss Adams by Baker Tilly internships. So the internships offer a great opportunity for you to engage with the Baker Tilly team members, build relationships, and engage in various tasks associated with client work. So client service internships consist of paid client service internships available in the summer, winter, and spring. We have a winter and spring, which consists of the time frame from early January through mid-April, and the summer internships are mid-June through August. Um, One of the exciting things is you'll get to gain knowledge of the firm's assurance tax managed services, also consulting practice through working with multiple clients across a variety of industries. Additionally, receive top tier technical training firm-wide and specific to your service line, build network skills, professionalism, and confidence. Um, and then we can go to the next slide. So our jobs postings are live now. If you have your iPhone or if you're one of those Android users, you can use that too. But we have a QR code here. So we'll continue to review applications until all the roles are filled. We encourage everyone to apply as soon as your application is ready. For our Heritage and Moss Adams locations, you can scan the QR code that we just talked about for all of our current openings. And then on the second part talks about some of the availability that we have. And so within our NorCal client service internships, you'll be able to launch your career through uh, internships which provide robust training, mentoring, and skills towards a career in insurance, tax, or consulting. And so our accounting interns for 2026, we have summer availability for internships available in Santa Rosa, Sacramento, Stockton, and Fresno, and tax internships available in all of our NorCal offices. And we also have specialty tax interns as well as outsource finance and accounting internships for our summer 2026 available in San Francisco, Walnut Creek, and Silicon Valley. And then on our next slide, that's it. It came down to that went
Yeah.
faster than I anticipated, you guys. Yeah, so that's a little bit about what we offer here at Baker Tilly, and I think we can open the floor up for any questions.
Yeah, and feel free to use the chat too if you feel more comfortable to ask a question in that modality. Paola and I can read the question and then uh, have Valerie and or Anthony answer the question. But also feel free to unmute if you would like to ask your question as well. Okay, we have a question in the chat. Do you have entry-level jobs?
Yeah, so that really is the internship. As Anthony mentioned, your career growth at Baker Tilly is going to start at the intern, whether it's a summer internship or winter internship, just the timing difference. But you'd go from intern to potentially a staff, senior, and kind of work your way up. But the entry level would start at the internship.
Okay, here come the questions. How long are the internships, and are you always offering a full-time position? And maybe the slide deck too, Paula. I'm a visual learner, so I always find it helpful to see it in addition to hearing it. I think on that slide it did say.
It does. So there's two internships. There's the winter and spring. The winter and spring would be early January through mid-April. And then there's the summer internship, and that typically is through mid-June through mid-August. And both are paid. And as far as offering a position, it's not guaranteed. It's dependent on performance and the feedback you get.
Great questions. Any more questions? Yeah, no problem, Tiffany. Tiffany says thank you. Thanks for your question. Are the internships part-time or full-time?
The internships will be full-time for for the duration. So yeah, you'll be working 40 hours a week for, I think it's about 6 to 8 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
And then I know in the winter, spring, a lot of folks are in school. So, the firm is happy to work with the school schedule if it is part-time. You just let them know, what courses, what time you're in school session, and they'll work with you.
I thought I saw a hand up, but it's down now. So if um, you want to use the raise hand feature, you're welcome to do that as well. But without seeing that hand up, I'll go ahead and go back to the chat. Another question is, what qualities are you looking for in the perfect internship candidate?
I would say really just someone who's really eager to learn. I always say in the first year, especially, you just want to be a sponge, ask as many questions as possible, and just really put yourself out there and, try to get to know folks and just don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask questions because no one expects you to know everything from the get-go and just try to be a sponge and absorb information.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just coming in with an open mind and with the perspective of like you don't know anything and we know you don't know anything when it comes to accounting and some of this technical stuff, and it's just a learning process. So the more open you are to learning something new, and taking direction, then that's gonna set you on the right course for sure.
Great, thank you. Do you have scholarships this semester?
That might be an Ava question. I know in
Yeah.
the past they did. Um, as far as this semester, I would need to connect with her and get back to you on that.
Okay, and I'm looking right now for Ava's email. We had said we needed to do that to have it ready to go, right? So Ava, do you want to talk a little bit about who Ava is while I put her contact information in the chat?
Yeah, Ava is our lead recruiter for junior colleges in Northern California region. And so she's the one who would really have, access and information to any details on the internships, timing, qualification and eligibility. Any of those specific questions, Ava would be a great go-to.
Thanks for introducing who Ava is. And then I put Ava's contact information in the chat there. Okay, let's see, another question. I see the current intern hiring cycle at Moss Adams is for summer 2026, but I've seen a few firms also begin hiring for 2027 interns. How far in advance is it normal to be looking for internships in the accounting field? Great question.
Yeah, I'd say, the next 1 to 2 years. I know there's definitely openings for next summer in 2026, so they're trying to fill those spots before they focus on 2027.
So almost a full year, it sounds like, right, Valerie, to
Yeah,
start
yeah,
Yes.
looking?
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Okay. It's hard to think that far in advance sometimes, but so generally your recommendation, particularly for accounting internships, is to be looking a year ahead of time.
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And yeah, that's going to be true all the way through from like internships to when you're looking to get hired as a staff. You're always going to be looking like outward looking. I learned that lesson the hard way. I went to a meet the firms and thought I was going to get a job that day, and it just doesn't work like that.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that with the team. So it sounds like what you're saying, Anthony, like if a student is planning on graduating, let's say spring 2026, and they're looking for a full-time position, that your recommendation is that they start now?
Yes. Yep. The
Okay.
application process, making sure you have the prerequisites and the counting units, and just always be forward looking when it comes to the accounting profession, 100%.
Good insight. That's awesome. We have another question here in the chat. Can we work as volunteers without getting paid part-time, like once a week or something like this? I think the question also has to maybe, the full-time commitment, maybe, is what I'm reading in that question as well.
As far as I know, we don't have any volunteer opportunities without getting paid. Anthony, is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. It's and to be candid, right? Like it's a full-on process. We have, a number of people applying for these positions. And so it's a time commitment on both sides, right? It's a time commitment from the firm and also for you to be engaged for that total internship so that you can learn what we're offering and then the opportunity to leverage that into a full-time offer as far as to become a staff. So it's kind of hard to do that evaluation because we evaluate you weekly on your performance if you're just showing up for one day at a time, over a few week period.
Okay, another question. How many classes have your accounting interns usually taken in order to be hired and keep up with their work?
That's a good question. I I would say my experience over the summer, and Valerie, maybe like maybe you have a different outlook on this, but typically they seem to be like just full-time intern, like performing their internship duties. I don't know if they're also attending classes in the summer while they're doing their internship.
Yeah, typically summer is full time. It's more the winter internship, January to mid-April, where some folks are balancing schoolwork as well. And I wouldn't say there's a number of classes you have to meet in order to start the internship. They're just looking, at your progress to make sure you're on the right track, in order to complete, the number of units and graduate and, so on and so forth.
Okay, another question here. These are great questions, so keep them coming, please. My major is business administration. I just took 2 classes of accounting. Am I eligible?
Yeah, so you're not required to, graduate with an accounting focus as long as it's something similar. So business administration is definitely eligible.
Great question. So let's see, as people are typing in their questions, we don't have any other questions in the queue. I guess I'll take a minute and ask a question. Can you talk about the interview process? So let's say student decides, let's say they're applying to summer because of the 40 hours, right? The full time, and they decide that that's maybe better with their schedule. Can you talk about the interview process?
Yeah, so typically the interview process, you will be meeting with, multiple people in the department. You might have 3 back-to-back interviews with, different, whether it's a tax manager or a tax senior manager or partner, but you'll connect and they'll kind of just get to know you and, ask questions and, what your interests are. And so you'll definitely be exposed to the interview process.
And then one thing I'll add that I learned in my process of interviewing is be true to yourself, right? Like bring and own your experiences that you have thus far, right? Like we know you're applying for an internship and you might not have worked for an accounting firm or have even worked in an office before. So just own the experiences that you have. And we're always looking for diversity and work experience because that adds value to the team. So don't feel like you have to like fit into this cookie cutter box of what an accounting firm is looking for. Just be true to yourself and own the experiences because that's who you are as an individual. And that will allow you to be more confident when you're having that interview process because you're not trying to fit something that you might not have the experience with. But if you're able to just speak truthfully about like what your experiences are, what you're good at, and own that, then that is going to add value to your interview process.
Anthony, I just want to take a minute. I see another question in the queue, but I just want to take a minute and acknowledge like how appreciate how honest you are about that. Because I think when I hear from students, I think that's one of the stressors of applying to positions and interviewing is exactly what you said. They don't have experience in maybe the specific industry, like in this case, an accounting firm, right? But maybe they have worked in retail, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe, they've worked in some sort of customer service, right? Capacity. And what I hear you saying is that is still of value. Like your work experience is still of value, and to really speak to your strengths and abilities during that interview in your previous work experience, or maybe even if somebody doesn't have work experience, Anthony, do you think it would also be relevant to talk about course projects, team projects that they worked in their coursework as well?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Or even if you played sports or you're a team captain, something that displays leadership that you can leverage your experience to bring to the table.
Great. Thanks for, I know I pushed a little bit deeper on that question because, like I said, in my experience with students, I hear that frequently across industry. So thank you, Beat, for being so honest and real with the students about that and about the interview process. Okay, there's another question in the chat. I think it's transferring to university this spring. Can I still apply?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. I think that's a
Yeah.
common question, yeah, for community college students, right? Because many of our students transfer, right? So in thinking about internships, that sometimes it falls in that in between. And so clarity on that. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I do want to acknowledge both Paola and Renata in the room. They work heavily directly with students who are thinking about applying or considering applying to internships such as this one with Baker Tilly. And I want to just give space for Paola and Renata to maybe ask some questions as they anticipate working with maybe some of the students in this space as they're preparing their application materials or maybe even doing a mock interview. If you want to take a moment and ask Valerie and Anthony a question. We have a really quiet group, I guess, today. Um, I guess my question is about, speaking to coursework. I hear of a lot from students of like, oh, should I talk about coursework if they ask like a specific example of like maybe, what draws you to accounting, right? Or why accounting? And could a student speak to maybe a course project they had and or, an instructor that they had and talk about that? Would that be something that would um, be helpful in thinking about how to answer a question like that?
Yeah, I definitely think that would be helpful. And, in the interview process, I'm sure they're going to ask, why are you interested in accounting
Mhm.
or maybe tax in particular? So, just preparing for that and, asking yourself, what is it about this industry that you're interested in? For me, why I'm interested in tax is it's constantly evolving and always changing with tax law changes. So you're always learning, you're always on your toes, you're always looking for, tax opportunity savings for our clients. And so that's something I really like about tax. And I'm sure Anthony, can speak on what he is passionate about in the insurance field.
Yeah, I would say maybe do some research to know what the assurance practice is, the tax practices. I don't think I did enough research. And the reason why I chose assurance was because it got me with, you get to travel. I thought, and I just personally thought accounting was like this cookie cutter thing where I was just going to sit in this cube all day and just have a 10 key and just type numbers like you would see like on a cartoon or something. But then once you get into it, right, like for me, I'm glad I chose assurance just with the variety of work. And so, especially in the beginning, you can go from an agricultural client that like sells bulk rice, but then you can also, on the other end, do an employee benefit plan where you're learning about how people contribute to save for retirement. And so there's this variety of industry groups that overlap in assurance services. But in not knowing what those things are, it's good to have questions queued up for the interview process. So, if you're speaking to a tax partner, you've like done a little research and you can maybe ask the question and they can see that you're engaged and you really want to see what you're picking their brain as well, and they're not just asking you questions. You're adding value to the interview by being engaged.
Those were great responses. I appreciate you digging in there and really like sharing about your experience, right? Again, Anthony, how honest you're being to help these students be even more prepared, right? So thank you for that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll just chime in.
Keep
And the
going.
reason I'm like just open about this because like coming from a junior college, like I did not know like what career path I was going to take, and I took a couple accounting classes and I was like, yeah, I think I can do this, but really didn't know what it entailed. So I think just being open about it, like, where you're open to experiencing something new and trying to start a new career path for yourself and establish your future. So I think it's just okay to maybe not know all the questions or all the answers, but just being engaged and taking the time to do a little research so you're prepared for the interview process, and just also to hear that like not everybody knows exactly what their career is going to be. And so yeah, just sharing a little bit about my background. Like I'm grateful that I have the accounting career now, and I kind of went out on a limb, but yeah, just there's no cookie cutter way about getting to this point. And so just being authentically like who you are and your experiences is just going to add value to, any any networking event or interview process that you're going to take a part in between now and when you start your career.
And Anthony, I'll build a little bit on what you're saying. And that's why, again, as Paula mentioned early at the start of the session, if you're looking for support or just someone to practice interviewing with, right? Certainly at each of the four sister colleges, we have a work experience and internship program, and that's available to students to practice, right? Because it is a unique experience to interview, right? It really is. Nowhere else do we really do that. Sort of talking about ourselves, talking about our strengths, talking about our interests, right? What drives you, what engages you, right? So I found that it is a skill, and it's with practice. There can be growth. So I just want to plant that seed as well. And if Paula, you can drop the contact information for work experience in the chat, that would be great. And then I do see a couple more questions here. Again, these are really thoughtful questions our students are asking. What challenges have you encountered when you were entering the industry?
I would say the initial challenge some folks face is just that transition from being a full-time student to now, entering the workforce and being a full-time employee. Just finding that work-life balance that works for you and that flexibility that works. But I would say that's also what's great about working at Baker Tilly is they really do try and focus on work-life balance. We're not going to be working the big 4 hours. There is flexibility in your role. And, Baker Tilly does offer different benefits. They offer disconnect days throughout the year where you're really encouraged to unplug and spend time with your family. You also have holidays. And so just finding that initial work-life balance adjustment, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we have another question in the chat. How many people are going to be accepted per location?
I think that's also a Ava question. We don't have the specific numbers on our side.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe if students have specific questions like that to contact Ava. And again, Ava's email was dropped in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, another question. Did you both start as interns at Moss Adams before moving up the staff? And if yes, what was the timeline that occurred during your college years? And do you have a favorite aspect that made you happy to work at Moss Adams? Nice question.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I'll go first. So I did not do the internship. Um, I I just got hired as a staff. So, like I said, I was late in the process, so I did not prepare. So I'm sharing my my battle scars with you guys. But I was able to graduate in December and then start as a staff. And then what is your other question?
Uh,
What is your favorite aspect that made
gotcha.
you happy to work with Moss Adams? Um, to be honest, I think like the camaraderie that I have with the people that I work with, and one of the things that I really appreciate is the level of like engagement from the partners or now principals and how we all work together. So it's not like you're a staff, you don't talk to me. Like they really encourage like open communication and are willing to step down and teach you, concepts in accounting. So that's been my experience, and one of the things that I value the most is that there was no like big I's and little U's, right? Like it was always a team effort, and people at the top were always willing to step down and like coach me up and just always like kind of give me guidance. And also one of the things I really love is like the partnership group just really advocating for us as staff and seniors and like really encouraging you to get to the next step, giving you, giving you the insight on like what things you should be doing to promote to manager or to promote to senior manager. So it's a really cohesive environment that I've experienced that everybody's just willing to help you along the way and advocate for you. So yeah.
Yeah, Anthony, my experience was very similar to yours. I did not start out as an intern. I started out as a staff in the Sacramento office. But I definitely did and attend those recruiting events, and that's where I really connected with the folks from Moss Adams. And I would say that is my favorite aspect of working here is the people and the culture. You want to enjoy the people you're working with, you want to get along with them and really connect with them. And I would say that, yeah, the people are by far why I chose this, firm.
And then I'll double back a little bit. Like I know that Vivian's been like shouting out the different um I guess the different services that are provided to you guys. I would say capitalize and use those. Like reach out to Paula and get a mock interview, get the help with the application, let them like dot the I's and cross the T's for you, because that is just gonna separate you from someone who didn't take advantage of those opportunities.
Thanks for the shout out, Anthony. Yeah, I would say that that is why our program exists is to support students so that you can be even more competitive, right? Like you've done the coursework, you've done all the time in the library on your computer, right? You went through signing up for classes, you have your goal, you're balancing so much in your life. Like we're here just to give you that extra lift, that extra support, that extra, space to reflect on, gosh, I'm really nervous about this interview, or I've never interviewed before. That's what this resource is here for. That's why work experience in the career centers exists so that you can be even more competitive. And why we host info sessions like this is so we can hear from Valerie and Anthony and hear their honesty about their path, right? But also learn about the amazing culture at their office. At Baker Tilly. So I also want to just take a minute and acknowledge I've seen some really cool like Instagram, Facebook posts from Moss Adams about some of the cool things that the interns do. Like some team building and some like outings, I think I've even seen. Is that something that you both, you can speak, or is that an Ava question?
There's
Yeah, I
definitely a
think
lot of Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
No, go ahead, Valerie, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's definitely a lot of team building opportunities. In particular, I know the summer internship, a big hit is the Disneyland trip. The interns spend a week in Southern California and, are involved in a number of different courses, but then they're also, in a team and able to explore Disneyland and connect with each other in team settings. So there's definitely a lot of positive feedback on that.
And I think one of the big parts of the internship is there's a group project. I'm not sure how they put the people in the groups together, but I've seen some really cool group projects at the end. And so that's always, something that the interns are looking forward to is doing their presentation at the end of like what they learned. And they're also creative in like how they present their, some of it's a PowerPoint. One team like did a rap on how he enjoyed his internship, which is kind of cool. So yeah, but I think the Disneyland is the big hit with the interns. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to not include this in the presentation. I know Ava definitely speaks about that. And I've again seen some really amazing posts about the team building and just the culture that, can kind of glean that you were both speaking to of just that community and connection around this company that I've seen. And it just really stands out to me. So I wanted to make sure to serve that up to you in the absence of Ava, right?
Yeah.
And I am putting Ava's contact information again in the chat for students here. Um, I know we're running close to time, so I know that if I guess my question to Valerie and Anthony is if students have additional questions, like let's say about the application or more about pay. Actually, someone's asking in the chat, how much is the pay?
Yeah, that would be an Ava question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ava would know. I don't have that detail.
Okay. All right. So I would say definitely if you're not able, like if you're able to get in the chat to screenshot or just capture, screen grab, whatever, Ava's contact information here and any questions that they have also about, applying or interview, should students also reach out to Ava directly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. So I'd say if any nugget here is to make sure to reach out to Ava. Um, and then I guess I want to give some space to if there's any other questions. I haven't seen any more, but you are getting some shout outs. I always appreciate when students show our speakers some love. You're getting some thanks for your encouragement and some excitement about applying. So that's great.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and in that vein and in that spirit of feedback, I want to invite you all to give us some feedback in our poll, right? So it helps Baker Tilly know, right? And Ava know about continuing to do these types of events. It helps Paula and myself know. And so it should pop up shortly. But there is going to be a poll that's going to show up on your screen and it's going to give us, it's 3 questions and it took 3 clicks. And so it helps us know how we're doing, how the employers are doing in their presentations. It's not specific. Your name isn't going to be tied to it in any way, so it's anonymous. And the aggregate data is going to be shared. So it's not going to out, Vivian for how she responded to the questions. It just helps us get a pulse on if we're, really meeting students, how much you learned and how beneficial it was to attend. And then it also helps us to share with your faculty members. We shared this out particularly with the accounting faculty members so they know they can speak to the value to other students, right? About how much value they found in attending the session with, in this instance, with Baker Tilly. So we really value your input. Quite a few of you have already responded, so I want to say thank you to respond. And I just want to give some space to, again, to Paula, or I don't know if Renata's still in the space to ask any questions or to fill in any gaps that you might have seen in the presentation, Paula.
Renata's not on. No, I don't have any questions. I thank you guys for for presenting. This was a lot of useful information. I guess the only thing that I will say for the students that are still on is if you prefer more of like the online, module, we do offer resume, cover letter, and interview skill workshops through Zoom, and we will have them coming up in October. So if you prefer that more than to like, like the one-on-one appointment that you can make with one of our staff, then please join one of the workshops because we'll go over a lot of useful tips that might help you when you plan to submit for the internships that you want to apply for. So our calendar is on our um, website, and I can drop that in just a second. And then we also have our calendars posted here at the center, and all of the events are on Handshake. So you'll see them on there and you'll be able to register for those as well. But other than that, I don't think I have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks for reminding students to engage with Handshake. And again, Anthony, thanks for the shout out to encourage students to take advantage of the resources. I have two last questions before we end. One is a student question and one is a spring question. So the question is, I think for us, Paula, is do you help with the applying process? So if students need help with the application process, that's the question, Paula.
Yeah, we don't necessarily help with the actual application process, just to make sure that everything is, not biased and really it should be something that the individual student should do. If you have a specific question, we can maybe assist you with like a specific question that you have in terms of maybe the application process. But in terms of actually applying for the position, it would really fall on the responsibility of the student. We want to make sure that you guys are um, putting your all in there and it's very individualistic to be fair
Okay,
for everyone.
great. And in that vein though, are there computers available in the Career Center if a student wanted to do that?
Absolutely. Good point. Thank you for saying that. We do have a few computers available. So if at any point you want to come into our center and nobody is on them, please feel free to use the space to apply. It's a very quiet space, so you can definitely come in and apply here if you'd like prefer that. So thank you for reminding
Awesome.
me.
Yeah, of course. And then last question for Valerie and Anthony. And again, the poll's still active. Most of you have responded. I can just see total numbers, so it's not like it's personal, just so I'm not, just so it's clear. But yeah, if you still haven't responded, I want to invite you to. For spring 2026, do you all think that Baker Tilly will be back to promote the summer internship, or do you think that'll be too late? Like, I guess the application, like how long it's open, the deadline. Does that make sense? For summer. Obviously, it'll be too late for this spring, the January start, but will there be any recruitment still for summer, or does that application period close early as well?
Oh, I think there's a slide.
Yeah, I believe there's still definitely a lot of open opportunities in the summer internship.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll hopefully see you back. Let's see. Eligible grad CPA. I wasn't clear to me about the deadline for summer. Was that on
Yeah,
there? Did I?
we'll have Ava reach out to you because I don't know the answer to that question, if I'm being
Okay.
honest.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if I missed it. So so there we are. So I'll work with Ava and perhaps maybe we might see Baker Tilly back maybe in early spring, if in fact the application is still open. If so, I mean, I would just again encourage you all to engage with Handshake. I also want to just take a minute to say thank you to Valerie and Anthony for taking the time. This is, I think, our third year. And so I appreciate you always willing to connect with our Los Rios students and share insight and information and just being really honest with them. And I also want to say thank you to Paola for co-hosting this event, for helping with all the logistics. And with that, I will say thank you to everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Take good care and be